China just issued 6 words that sent tremors through the very foundation of global finance. Stop using the US dollar. Just 6 words, but they carried the force of a tectonic rupture. For nearly a century, the dollar has been the world's anchor, the undisputed backbone of global trade and economic order. But now, the second largest economy on Earth is walking away from it. Not hesitating, not negotiating, just turning its back. This isn't a disagreement over currency. It's a warning shot, a declaration. The era of obedience is over. The age of listening to Washington is done. Beijing has stopped playing by the old rules, especially America's, especially Trump's. Years of sanctions, semiconductor bans, export blacklists, and tariffs that bleed by design. Washington thought it could squeeze China into submission. But instead of folding, China has recalibrated, hardened, evolved. This is no longer about trade, it's economic warfare. Cold, calculating, and global. And the United States isn't just trying to limit China's exports anymore. It's going for the kill. The mission is now surgical. Cut China out of the world's financial bloodstream. Recently, the US ordered the Asian Development Bank to cease all loans to China, claiming it no longer qualifies for special treatment. A bureaucratic move on the surface, but underneath, a public slap across the face. And that wasn't the end. It was the opening salvo. Enter US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, touring the globe, meeting with leaders, and delivering a chilling ultimatum. Cut ties with China, or face the wrath of Washington. In Spain, when a government minister dared suggest a more cooperative stance with Beijing, Bessent cut him down coldly. That would be cutting your own throat. This isn't diplomacy. It's economic blackmail. Behind closed doors, on podiums, at international summits, the US isn't using bombs or boots. It's using the dollar, the most powerful weapon in its arsenal. Access to the global financial system. SWIFT, the IMF, the World Bank, isn't just a privilege anymore. It's a pressure point, a switch. And the US has its hand on it. Tariffs still burn at levels once unthinkable, some spiking to 30% or more. And Trump? He's not just demanding that China sell less. He wants it to buy more American goods, more American values, more American influence. But the cost of obedience is rising and the returns are shrinking. Consider this. Washington has revived the PRC is not a developing country act, a 2023 law that forces global institutions to treat China like a rich nation. No special loans, no soft trade deals, no sympathy. On paper, it looks like protocol. In reality, it's a stranglehold. But even that's not enough. Washington wants more control, more loyalty, and less resistance. Bessent went further, publicly blasting the IMF and World Bank, the very pillars meant to stabilize the global economy. These aren't rogue operations. They're lifelines for dozens of struggling nations. Yet now the US is bending them into weapons. The message is simple: follow our rules, or face the fallout. And just as Bessent tried to rally allies, Trump walked on stage and detonated the strategy. He threatened more tariffs, suggested even deeper isolation, pulled the rug out with a smile. In his America, unpredictability isn't a flaw, it's policy. One day, sanctions. The next, silence. The result? Chaos. Investors are panicking. Confidence is evaporating. Billionaires who once wrote checks to Trump are now stepping back, quietly. Global trade is stalling. And once loyal allies are asking a question that terrifies American strategists. What if we don't need the US anymore? That's the danger Washington can't ignore. If America keeps weaponizing the very institutions it built, the rest of the world might simply walk away. Forge new paths, build new alliances, design new financial systems, leave the dollar in the dust. But here's the twist. China isn't retreating. It's recalibrating. The Qatar Investment Authority just took a 10% stake in China Asset Management Co., a strategic signal from the heart of the Middle East. China's trade with ASEAN alone reached $234 billion in just Q1 of 2025. The Belt and Road Initiative? It now includes nearly 150 nations, and that number's still growing. Even under US pressure, China's influence spreads like wildfire. But what truly terrifies Washington isn't China's diplomacy, it's China's industry. That's the real battlefield. In 2024, manufacturing accounted for 26% of China's economy, and nearly a third of global output. This isn't just scale, it's infrastructure, control, dominance, empire building in real time. By 2025, China's nominal GDP hit $19.22 trillion, but by purchasing power, $40.7 trillion, making it, by real economic output, the largest economy on Earth. Meanwhile, the US, once the manufacturing titan of the world, has seen its industrial base shrink to just 10.3% of its economy, the lowest since World War II. A country that once built everything now builds almost nothing. And that's the truth. The US isn't fighting to win anymore. It's fighting to delay the inevitable. Every dollar weaponized, every institution hijacked, every loan withheld. It's all part of a desperate last stand. The end of American economic supremacy isn't coming. It's already here. China's strategy? Ruthless in its simplicity. Produce more, rely on no one, and ride out the storm. Because the storm has only just begun. It didn't start with a bang. It started in silence. 2015. No headlines. No press conference. Just a government plan buried deep in bureaucracy, with ambitions loud enough to shake the global order. China was done being the world's bargain basement manufacturer. Done stitching t-shirts and assembling gadgets for someone else's profit. It wanted transformation. Power. Dominance. Not eventually, immediately. The plan was a masterstroke. Aircraft, robotics, electric vehicles, semiconductors, medical technology. High-tech territory long claimed by the West. But China didn't just want in, it wanted control. And within years, the future began arriving. Fast. Today, China isn't catching up. It's leading. It builds over 60% of the planet's electric cars. It owns the solar panel market. In 2023, it deployed over 300,000 industrial robots, more than any other nation on Earth. This wasn't slow, steady progress. This was acceleration at scale. Because behind the scenes, a machine was humming. A state-powered, centrally coordinated, debt-fueled, laser-focused juggernaut. Factories got funded. Loans flowed like water. Subsidies landed with surgical precision. Entire industries were lifted, reshaped, and supercharged. These weren't sweatshops. These were self-contained ecosystems, clean, digitized, AI-enhanced, and lightning-fast. Western companies were left blinking, already behind. America is still the largest economy, but its grip on manufacturing is slipping. Now just 16% of global output. China, once far behind, now surges ahead. And forget cheap labor. Wages in China's coastal cities rival Eastern Europe. This is no longer about saving pennies. It's about moving at a speed the West can't touch. In Shenzhen, a product idea becomes a prototype in days. Massive factories, optimized supply chains, ports and rails and runways all syncing like code. China's not playing the old game. It's writing a new one. That speed, that precision, that rise, it terrified Washington. This wasn't just business. It was power. Strategic power, national power. Chips, AI, drones, weapons, infrastructure. Whoever controls manufacturing controls the future. So the US hit back. Tariffs, sanctions, trade barriers. A campaign of economic warfare. The goal, slow China down, cut it off, bring factories back home. But China didn't stumble. It adapted. Huawei, once banned, now builds its own chips. BYD, the Chinese EV titan, has steamrolled past Tesla, and it's not looking back. It's exporting to Europe, Latin America, Southeast Asia. It's not entering markets. It's overtaking them. And now, a brutal truth has settled in Washington, in boardrooms, in Brussels and Tokyo. Can the world even afford to decouple from China? This isn't just a trade dispute. It's a battle for control. If China rises unchallenged, it won't just make the world's products. It will define the rules of the global economy, how business is done, where capital flows, who leads. That's why America doubled down. Fortress America. Build barriers. Cut China out. Block its tech. Create new trade deals without Beijing. Rewrite supply chains. Build a new system sealed off and self-reliant. But the flaw is fatal. The world is already entangled. Germany's cars depend on Chinese parts. Japan's electronics are assembled in Chinese factories. The West talks independence, but the world keeps buying Chinese. In 2024, China exported nearly $3.66 trillion in goods. Its trade surplus? Almost $1 trillion. Sanctions didn't shrink China's footprint. They forced evolution. So Beijing pivoted. And now it's building something bigger, its own global system. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, it's laying down infrastructure. Roads, ports, pipelines. From Africa to Europe, Latin America to Central Asia. A new map of global trade, without Western oversight. And then, the ground shifted again, this time under the dollar. In 2024, the People's Bank of China made its move. It raised the portion of China's trade settled in yuan from 25% to 40%. Quiet on the surface, explosive underneath. China's trade reached 43.8 trillion yuan, nearly 7.8 trillion. At 40%, over $3 trillion in trade would bypass the US dollar entirely. That's not a tweak. That's a tectonic shift. As more global trade flows through the yuan, the dollar's dominance fades. Capital starts flowing into Chinese markets. Wall Street loses gravity. Goldman Sachs says even a 1% rise in the yuan could lift Chinese stocks by 3%. This is financial rebalancing at planetary scale. Every yuan gained is a dollar lost. And this is only the beginning. If just a slice of remaining global trade shifts into yuan, China's financial system won't just rise. It could rival and eventually displace the old Western-led order. Investment flows would be rerouted. US assets could weaken. The global economy would tilt toward Beijing. And while economists debate, the real world war has already begun, and it runs on lithium. BYD has gone on the offensive. Their EVs were already cheap. Now they're slashing prices 10%, 20%, 30%. In Asia, in Europe, in America. Tesla? Under siege. This isn't a price war. It's a takeover. And it's not just about cars. It's about owning the road ahead. Battery technology, autonomous driving, data, software, energy ecosystems. China wants it all, not just to compete, but to dominate. From production to platforms, from chips to capital, from raw materials to rules of the game. China is orchestrating a full-spectrum economic counteroffensive. It's not reacting anymore. It's building something new, a parallel system. Faster, cheaper, smoother. With Beijing at the center, the US tried to squeeze China. But the real question now isn't whether China can survive. It's this: can the rest of the world resist? Or will they follow?